May I have your attention, please? If you have not done so at this time, please silence all cell phones and pagers and please sign in. Thank you.
Good morning. This meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. This meeting is being held at the offices of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North 3rd Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, May 29th, 2019, and the time is 10:01 a.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman Shahardy,
Here.
Commissioner Wagasback,
Here.
Commissioner West,
Present.
Commissioner Vercher, Commissioner Wood,
Here.
4 present and a quorum.
Thank you. There being no old business to take up at this time, I'll accept a motion for the approval of the minutes of the May 15th, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher is absent. Commissioner Wagasback,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
and Chairman Shahardy.
Yes. I'll accept a motion for the approval of the May 22nd, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher is absent. Commissioner Wagasback,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
and Chairman Shahardy.
Yes. I'll make a motion at this time that we deny the motion and memorandum in support of a rehearing in the appeal of the Jung LLC versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 18-22171-012 by Assessor Errol Williams from Orleans Parish.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher is absent. Commissioner Wagasback,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
and Chairman Shahardy.
Yes. We'll now consider change orders.
Good morning, Commissioners. Meridian Ponche on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 253 change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 244 and place 9 in pending. Staff requests approval of these change orders.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the staff recommendations and approve 244 change orders and place 9 in pending status.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher is absent. Commissioner Wagasback,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
and Chairman Shahardy.
Yes. We'll now consider prior pending change orders.
Meridian Ponche on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 46 prior pending change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 18, deny 1, with 27 remaining in pending status. The reason for rejection was change based on a sale price in Orleans Parish. Staff requests approval of these prior pending change orders.
Have a motion for approval?
I would move that we accept the staff recommendations and approve 18 of the prior pending, deny 1, and leave the remaining 27 in pending status.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher is absent. Commissioner Wagasback,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
and Chairman Shahardy.
Yes. All right, at this time, I will ask anyone who is planning on testifying this morning at the table to please come forward and to be sworn in as a witness.
We haven't done this before. We swear all the witnesses in at the same time. I'll administer the oath. You'll approach any of the microphones, affirm the oath by stating "I do," and then state your name for the record. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
George Wallace, Tax Commission, I do.
Keely Williams, 2314 Iberville Street, I do.
David Vignair at 900 Porters, Suite 1100, I do.
Lisa Ross, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office, I do.
Thomas Sandoz, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The
Thank
chairman
you.
will call it out.
It is the Tax Commission's policy to accept all documents into the record that were timely pre-filed in accordance with the Commission's rules and regulations. This will be done at the conclusion of all hearings on today's docket. Accordingly, there is no need to formally offer or introduce the exhibits into the record during your appeal hearing. However, if you intend to object to the submission of any of the opposing parties' exhibits, you must notify the Commission at the start of your appeal hearing. As a reminder, this is an administrative hearing, and as such, the rules of evidence are relaxed. The commission is inclined to review and consider all evidence submitted and to accept such evidence into the record. The first item on the appeal docket this morning is the appeal of 2314 Iberville Street LLC versus Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 18-22172-003. All right, this is a taxpayer appeal, so I'll ask taxpayer to please state your name for the record.
Keely
and
Williams.
pull your microphone close. One of us can't hear well. It's one of them, not me. I can hear great, it's just them. Anyway, just state your name and please proceed.
Okay. It's Keely Williams, 2314 Iberville Street. We've challenged the property taxes at this address. The appraiser has come out and made a review in which we are in agreement with. So as you know, as long as the assessor is okay with the appraised value, we're okay with it as well.
And that's the value that the our staff appraiser came up with, $200,000?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Mr. Sandos?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thomas Sandoz, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Subject property is located at 2314 Iberville Street, or Iberville, depending on your pronunciation. Property transacted in 2016 for $280,000, which triggered a revalue by our office. The taxpayer appealed to the BOR, and I believe the BOR adjusted the improvement value. We did not appeal, taxpayer appealed. There's no supporting evidence issued by either our office or the taxpayer, so we would ask the commission to uphold the BOR decision on the property.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the comment by the, at the Board of Review, I think it's saying, indicating that you may have said this, Ms. Sandos, that the property was sold in 2016. Was it put on for 90% of the sales price, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know how we feel about that, huh?
Yes, sir.
Does every sale trigger a revaluation in Orleans Parish?
Not all. Not all.
And if it triggers, go
If
ahead.
there's a vast difference between the sale price and what we have it on for, we'll look for renovation permits, things like that, to see if there's any change in character.
So when you
I
make
think-
that adjustment on that, do you go through the whole neighborhood and make adjustments?
Not always.
Do you ever? Have
In a
you ever?
commercial scenario, no.
So that's
Not.
so that creates the equalization issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, I think that a sale of a property typically triggers a revaluation in just about every jurisdiction in the state.
No, I don't doubt from a fair market value standpoint that house may be worth what it's sold for, in normal circumstances. The problem
Correct.
is, it's just the surrounding properties,
It's a difficult task to achieve
Yeah.
quote-unquote equalization, especially in a commercial scenario, because property types are vastly different.
Yeah.
And non-homogeneous and so on and so forth. So that's why we're not, picking on people, so to speak. But that does trigger a reval. Not necessarily a reval, but, like Ms. Ross said, we need to look at the property and see, if we had it on for $30,000 and it's sold for, $300,000 or whatever, I mean, we need to look at that. So.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. My concern is simply picking it up at a percentage of the sales price, and then at the same time, not looking at the neighborhood, because, I mean, you're valuing property on different standards. Some properties being valued on a 2016 sales price, another property may have been valued on a 2015 set of values. Tomorrow, one may be valued at a 2018 set of values. And it's just inconsistent and, in my opinion, unfair to that taxpayer that he or she is being valued at a standard different than his or her neighbors.
I
And I
understand.
realize, and I agree with you, that commercial property is much more of an issue or a problem because by its very nature, one commercial property to the other, it's hard to do a market approach on commercial property for that
That's
reason.
correct. Yes.
Income approach seems to be the most reliable method. And certainly, you know, if there's an error or a mistake, you know, for example, you've got it, the record says it's a 1,500 square foot building on a 3,000 square foot lot, when in fact it's a 5,000 square foot building on a 40,000 square foot lot. We're not talking about that, you know,
Right.
that's correcting an obvious error. But it ought to be corrected, in my opinion, again, on the same standards that all the other property in that area have been valued at. And we've had this discussion before, and we're rehashing it again. But anyway,
Chairman, also,
Yes.
if I could just add to
Sure.
that, in my particular, you know, and I'm not arguing, I'm agreeing with the
Sure.
appraisal, but, yeah, with this particular property, I mean, this is like a spot zone, so it's in the middle of a neighborhood, and the neighborhood's transitioning, and so when we bought it, we thought it was gonna appraise much higher in value more quickly, and it really didn't. It went down, and part of it was because of policy change. It's like, what's the highest and best use for a warehouse that's spot zoned in a residential neighborhood? And so that's why it's really important to kind of look at the neighborhood as a whole, and that's kind of why we challenged it in the first place, is because all these warehouses that were originally used for a storage purpose can no longer be used for that anymore. So anyway, just wanted to add to that thought line of thinking.
yeah. I
Chairman
understand.
Shahardi,
Yeah.
in particular, in this property in particular, it's a mixed-use property. There's commercial use and there's residential use as well.
Mhm.
I believe there was a short-term rental application applied for and granted. So, you know, to kind of dovetail on everything, it's difficult to equalize, you know, a property like that, as Ms. Williams said.
Yeah.
It's spot zoned, it's in a residential neighborhood,
Yeah.
but there's commercial use.
And I think we also only had it as a warehouse. We were not aware of the residential/office space or whatever it's being used for.
I understand. Again, you know, the issue is 90% of the sales price as the basis for the value. It's not that it is 90% of the sales price, but we also did this income approach and we did this cost approach, and here's where it came out at. And when we looked at all the numbers, yeah, it is 90%, but we got there because we also did this other analysis that indicated the value ought to be this value. The sales price ended up actually being just supportive of what our market research has shown.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I believe Commissioner Wagasback suggested that maybe we go with like 87.3% of the sales price.
It wouldn't be, but change it up, okay?
But is it because of the cost of the other analysis, or is it you just want to move on?
Well, to be honest with you, Commissioner West, you know, we have a very arduous task in front of us, and it's difficult to keep up with things, to be honest with you. So, you know, we do the best we can, and we have our marching orders, as you well know, and that's pretty much where we land.
But well, you just because it's overburden, it's an overburden. You don't have enough people, enough staff in the office to do it. Is it?
That's one of the issues, yes, sir.
Is it the timing? Is it the process? Is there a different process?
All of those things are correct.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wallace?
Good morning, I'm George Wallace with the Louisiana Tax Commission. I completed an appraisal dated April 8th of 2019 with an effective date of 1/1/15. The land value based on the vacant land comparables in the area is $23,300. I did a cost approach and came up with a total value of $208,000. with improvement value of $185,000 and $23,300 for the land. I did do an income approach as well and came up with $192,000, and a final correlation of value is $200,000.
Any questions? Any more comments?
Your motion?
Yes.
Based on the evidence presented, my motion would be to set the value of the LTC staff appraisal, land $23,300, and improvements $176,700, for a total of $200,000.
I'd second that.
Commissioner Varcher is absent. Commissioner Wagensback,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
and Chairman Shahar.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the appeal of JRFASS Enterprises LLC versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 18-22172-008.
Chairman Shahorty, good morning.
Good morning.
David Vignair, 909 Portras, 11, Suite 1100, on behalf of the appellant. And my client, Mr. Marullo, the client representative of the entity, is here. He was not here when the witnesses were sworn in.
Okay, is he going to swear, is he going to testify?
He will.
Okay, you want to swear this witness in?
Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please say, "I do," and state your name.
I do. Anthony Marullo. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Just give me 1 second. Okay. All right, Mr. Vicknair, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Shahorty and Commissioners. This property at Municipal Address 2323 Canal Street in Orleans Parish was originally assessed by Mr. Williams' office at $657,800. Thereafter, pursuant to the appeal, Mr. Wallace's assessment and appraisal on a cost approach analysis valued the property at $524,000, and on an income approach analysis valued the property at $402,000. This particular parcel of land in Orleans Parish is right across from the new hospital that the state built, and this is in a very developing district. It's not heavily trafficked via foot. It's typically transportation-based for any type of customers that any commercial business would have in this particular area. As a part of my client's development of this particular raw land, while we are zoned in HUMU, there was a very arduous political process which my client incurred capital and expense in obtaining a conditional use permit to allow for a drive-through of this particular commercial space. That conditional use was originally denied by the City Planning Commission staff, but ultimately approved by the City Council of Orleans Parish. So there is some tenuous nature with our zoning in this particular commercial space, which we would posit does detrimentally affect the ultimate commercial value, because for every 6 months that this particular commercial space stays vacant, we have to go back and get that particular commercial tenant approved by the City Council because we're on conditional use. Additionally, as I mentioned, my client, Anthony Marullo, is here to testify a little bit more about the particular area of the comps and his running of the business, and what our request is for your valuation of the underlying property.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think you were here when we swore the witnesses.
Yeah, Robert did.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Sorry, I
swore.
just had to step out.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize for being late,
No,
Commissioners.
that's no problem. That's not a problem.
This particular property was initially developed to be a coffee shop. It's only 1,620 square feet, the building itself. It's been 3 businesses in the last 2 years, so there's been some difficulty in, and it's been a variety of businesses in the last 3 years. So there's been some hardship and some difficulty in keeping it occupied and keeping it running. There's been some operators with experience there. But as I said, it's only 1,620 square feet. I believe we have some comps here that we submitted as to everyone. And I'd like to point to like 405 South Broad Street. And on this particular comp, you have 1,740 square feet, and it's I believe it comes out to $166 a square foot. I understand that's not an income approach, but we're talking about a really small building that, you know, has really struggled here. So I kindly ask the commissioners to consider that, and I kindly ask the commissioners maybe to weight that out against the income approach, because I understand it is commercial property. So I would kindly ask the commissioners to look at these comps, the square footage of these comps that were all within the last year, take into consideration the square footage, the hardships that it's been to keep the building occupied, but I do understand that we also have to give a significant amount of weight to the income approach of the evaluation. So I thank you.
Did you pull any tax data on these particular comps? This is MLS listing, so that's what it sold. Did you look at any assessed values?
No, sir, I didn't. I just went off of sales in the last year, and I tried to find similar, as close to zoning as I could find, and as close to,
Okay.
you know, use as I could find.
Just give me a moment.
The property's not vacant now.
It is, we signed a lease 2 months ago. They're not paying rent yet, but they will be soon. And we hope that they make it there, or that they're successful there. But it is the third business in the last 2 years.
All right. Sandos?
Good morning, Commissioners. Thomas Sandoz, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Initially, I would object to the comparable data that's been referenced by the taxpayer being entered into the record. We were not provided with any of those comparable listings and/or sales. Furthermore, the taxpayer pointed to a property on, I think it was South Broad, is that correct? On North Broad?
Yes, that's correct.
That's an inferior location to the 2300 block of Canal Street, which is located directly across the street from the new VA and LSU hospitals. So I would object to
I understand.
that being into the record.
You know, our tendency is to let everything into the record. I'm not going to express an opinion on what they submitted or not. I'm really more interested in how the assessor's office arrived at the value. Am I correct that the improvement value is $426,900?
It is correct that,
Okay.
that's where we had it. The
All right.
BOR has reduced it to 375,000.
Okay, how much they reduced it to? 375?
They reduced the improvement value to 375,000.
All right, give me a moment. The reason I'm asking is because based on 1,620 square feet, is that about right?
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Okay. The original values, again, if I did this correctly, is about $263 a square foot. And I'm familiar with the property. I've recently passed it on Canal Street and wondered why it was vacant. It looks like it's a nice location. I figured there's some problem going on.
Yeah, the building is newly constructed.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the vacancy issues it's had?
Yes.
But the property is currently leased.
The property is currently leased. Initially, when this appeal came about, income information was requested, which I never received. So I was never able to look at any actual income. Therefore, I looked at the permit, I looked at Marshall and Swift, and did a cost approach ultimately.
Thank you.
What is it's on the lease right now, so what is the rent right now?
Currently, the rent's $6,500 a month. With the new tenant, and they start paying rent in 2 months. But I'd just like to make one more note, is the first business that there was a franchise. It was a CC's Coffee House, a very reputable name. You know, I feel like it was operated to the highest of standards, and it couldn't make it there. The second business there was a Praline Connection, gentleman who's been in the business he's got 5 locations in the New Orleans area, could not make it there. I hope and pray the third tenant can make it there. But it looks like a wonderful location. I know you see this big, beautiful hospital across the street. The traffic and the density there, as my lawyer, Mr. Vigner, said, as far as walkability and is just low. I mean, it's just low. And if a brand like CC's Coffee House can't make it there, it's not looking too great for whatever reason. So I'd just like to make
What
another
type
note
of
of that.
retail is it coming in now?
It's going to be another restaurant, sir.
Restaurant.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what that calculates as per square foot that you're getting for your rental?
I could figure it out. What is that?
What other expenses is the landlord obligated for?
$4, is that right?
6,500 a month divided by 1620 would put it at.
Okay, that's what, I just wanted to make sure that's,
I'm sorry, sir.
What other expenses is the landlord responsible for with regard to the rent?
So this is a ground lease, so
Oh,
there's
okay.
6,500 coming in and 6,500 going out every month. So
Say that again?
there's 6,500 coming in and there's 6,500 going out. So
going
I
out where? What are the,
so so I own the building, but it's a ground lease. I don't own the land. So I have 6,500 coming in every month, and I have 6,500 going out to the guy who owns the land every month, the gentleman that owns the land every month. So it actually costs me money to
Gotcha,
to hold this property.
Okay, but what is you have a tenant right now, but they're just not open yet.
That is correct, sir.
What is his or her rent?
6,500.
So so,
$4 a square foot?
yeah, so you're basically renting it so you don't have to come out of pocket.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, so it's,
So really, his operating expenses would have to be adjusted to reflect that ground
well,
lease, right?
there's no real
Yeah.
based on what you're saying, it sounds like there's really no operating expenses on the part of the land, on your part.
The land lease, that's what he just said.
Mm.
Yeah, but I mean, it's $6,500 a month. is
Yeah.
what-
It's a triple net, yes, sir. It's a triple net lease, so I'm lucky to, I hope, in hopes if this third business could make it, I would be able to break even in a fiscal year, hypothetically.
Well, if you're taking $6,500 a month in rent and paying the landowner $6,500 a month,
That's correct.
you're not gonna make any money
That is correct, sir. Yes, sir.
unless you got bumps in that lease down the road
Yeah.
that you might make money.
Yes, sir. And we tried to market that property at, $9,500 for months and months, and it just was, then we went down to $8,500, then we marketed it at $7,500, and, the market just didn't, I felt like we were lucky to get what we have for it, so we're just trying to stop the bleeding here. So I just kindly ask the commissioners to take all of that into consideration.
Who pays the property taxes? The tenant?
Yes, sir. It's a triple net.
Triple net, okay, you said that, yeah.
And just so the commission's clear, my client goes to the property owner, essentially, if we locate a tenant, and gets a written approval to sublease out, because we sit as a sublessee to the property owner. Just to briefly also address the city's objection to the exhibits, I did fax these exhibits to Errol Williams' office with a cover letter 15 days ahead of the hearing and confirmed that the fax went through, in case there was any situation that they may not have received the comps.
So, After I did my analysis on the cost approach, I came in very close to the tax commission. I did offer a settlement which was sent on May 3rd. And at that time, I believe I got a verbal confirmation, but never received anything.
What was that amount for?
That amount was for the LTC value,
Which is what, 524,000?
which is 524. Correct. The building at 923-100, I don't believe the land was an issue, for a total of 524.
Was that accepted or rejected, or y'all just didn't have a chance to respond to it?
I was not aware of it, Commissioner Wagsback, and I don't know if my client was.
I wasn't aware of it either.
How do you
I
feel
sent it
about
via
that?
email. I did not print the email, but if you need it,
Well,
I can.
we got
definitely-
everybody here,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can rule now, so how do you feel about that value, I think is what Mr. Chairman was referring to?
The value she recommended?
Well, the staff commission, we haven't heard from Mr. Wallace yet, but Mr. Wallace's appraisal is $524,000. The assessor's office is saying that they made an offer to settle it for that amount of money. Do you have any,
I think, I would just once again point to, I don't question the validity of his appraisal, but I believe there's a backstory to this particular property of all those things I mentioned, the multiple businesses that have gone out of business with good name, good reputations. I feel like these comps are much more recent. These were in the last year, if I'm not.
we're using evaluation data January 1 of 2015
Yeah.
for this 4-year period from 16 through 19.
Okay.
So,
Did
plus
Mr.
without no-
Wallace ask you for income and expense information? Did y'all get any requests from him?
I never received it, and I may clarify, and I don't dispute that Mr. Wallace requested it, that one of the issues may have been that there was prior counsel who was originally listed on this appeal. And I think that he was going through some issues that did not allow him to fully respond to some of the requests. I know that I talked to Mr. Wallace before the hearing, and he did tell me that he had requested it on multiple occasions and never received it. But I never received that request, and I don't think my client did either.
I did not.
Well, then who was the request made to?
Right.
To my previous counsel,
And who
who,
was that?
Chris Young, he no longer, can't practice right now.
So you were never aware of any requests for income,
I was not, no, sir.
even though it was made to your counsel?
It wasn't made to my current counsel,
Well,
sir.
it was made to the council that was listed, that we have on record, and so,
Yeah.
that we have in here. And that's all we have to go by,
I understand, yes, ma'am.
and that's
They're
probably who I
authority.
sent it to.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That's probably where some of the misunderstanding came from.
I guess my question would be, if the taxpayer switches legal counsel, how does that
It
impact
doesn't.
the property value?
We don't,
Because we're not aware of it.
no, I don't think it's a,
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect, but if they choose not to respond, they choose not to respond. I mean,
Most don't.
Yeah. And there are times where it's better to respond, but,
Yeah.
I think we're okay. Staff.
Mr. Wallace, why don't you tell us about your appraisal?
Okay. Good morning again, George Wallace with the Louisiana Tax Commission. The property was vacant at the time of inspection. I had a land value of $230,900. Did a cost approach with a good ranking. It had a value of $524,000, which was $293,385 to the improvements and $230,900 to the land. I did do a projected pro forma, as they were talking about. I talked to this Chris Young on 2 or 3 occasions, emails, March 1st of 19th, February. I never got any kind of income or expenses on the property. And so I relied heavily on my cost approach, being that the building's new construction at $524,000.
So the cost approach, in your opinion, is a more reliable approach to this valuation of this particular property?
I'd like to have more data,
Yeah.
but I didn't have any similar sales to use. And with my pro forma projected income, I just put that in there for support. So yeah, I guess you could say I relied more on the cost approach.
Okay. Do we have any more questions?
If I may have a question.
Sure.
At what point would your former legal counsel have or be obligated to let us know that he's no longer communicating with you? Because I actually spoke to him prior to sending the settlement letter, and it was under my impression, I was under the impression that he was still your counsel.
Is
as
he
of May
still
3rd.
practicing? Has he been suspended? Is there a medical condition?
No, he was suspended from the practice of law. I
So-
believe he may be eligible to have his license back sometime after September, I believe I read.
So he probably just disappeared off the face of the earth.
No, he didn't
No,
disappear.
no,
I
Chris-
actually spoke to him.
No, Chris is still around.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
didn't
I
disappear.
bumped into Chris at dinner.
And if I can address that, we began involvement in this well before that May 3rd date, so that is concerning to me that he was still communicating on behalf of the client to Orleans, and he most likely shouldn't have in this particular situation, just in my humble opinion. But
I sent an email, I don't remember what date, but it was some time ago, letting Chris know. At some point, he did reach out to me, and I let him know that there was new counsel, and I apologize that you guys did not know that there was new counsel, and I certainly did not intentionally mean to call.
No, I didn't think that.
No.
I just,
But either way, I do apologize for that misunderstanding. I would just please take into consideration the hardship here of the money that we've lost in trying to develop this property. I would just ask that you guys please consider that. I do not make any money. I've lost over $800,000 on this particular property. I'd kindly ask that you all take that into consideration. It's only 1,600 square feet. Thank you.
Okay.
And-
All right,
and-
no more questions? We have a motion?
Yeah, I feel your pain, but in this case, I think the best evidence presented is the cost approach presented by the staff in concurrence with the assessor. I think that there was an acceptable offer. So my motion would be to set the land value at $230,900, improvements at $293,100 for a total of $524,000.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher is absent. Commissioner Waxback,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
and Chairman Shahardy.
Yes.
I know my area, this is a drive-through, right?
It is not a drive-through.
So it's not a drive-through?
No, it's a conditional use to the specificity of a coffee shop.
I was thinking with those stressed-out nurses and doctors, a daiquiri shop would work really well.
Can't have a daiquiri shop, you gotta go to, can't have liquor license there. That's the problem
It's
here,
a bad deal, yeah.
you know?
Okay.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Thank you.
all very much. Appreciate you.
Mr. Sandos, you wanted to make some comments?
Yes, sir. I know, we cause some consternation for you all from time to time, but I would like to take this opportunity to pat ourselves on the back a little bit here, if you don't mind. Several staff members, appraisal staff members, recently earned the Residential Evaluation Specialist designation from the International Association of Assessing Officers, affectionately known as IAAO. They took this challenge upon themselves. It was not required by the office. They went through many hours of study, several examinations, including a case study exam. I don't know if you all have ever experienced that, but it's pretty arduous. And then there's a master exam as well. So these folks, did a really, really good job. And I believe, Lisa, there's only 6 of these designations statewide, and we have 5 of them.
Really?
Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
and
impressive.
those people are Ms. Ross, Lisa Ross, Russell Almaraz, who I'm
Yes.
sure y'all are familiar with,
Yeah.
Keith Levine, who's part of my staff,
Sure.
and Brent Ardno, who's on the residential side, and David Sublé. So I would just, like to congratulate those people officially and get that on the record, and I'm very proud of of their efforts and their success. And that's pretty much
Sounds
it.
like a raise to me for those guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't make those decisions. So, anyway, thank you for
Well, thank you
for
all
that
very much.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all doing that.
Thank you all very much. The Tax Commission hereby accepts all pre-filed documents and oral testimony into the record as Taxpayer Exhibit 1 in Globo, Assessor Exhibit 1 in Globo, and LTC Staff Appraiser Exhibit 1 in Globo for each appeal hearing conducted today, respectfully. All right, I don't believe there's any other matters on the docket for today's hearing, so I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Commissioner Archer is absent. Commissioner Wagasback.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Yes.
And Chairman Shahardy.
Yes.